Hello, this is Song from Playground and Play Shop. Today, as I said last time, we are going to make two Yinyang pattern string art, 2 versus 1 and 1.5 versus 1. We will start with 2 versus 1 the first and go for the 1.5 versus 1 Yinyang pattern continuously. First of all, to make Yinyang pattern string art, there are two more things we need in add wood panel, nails, hammer, scissor, and thread. These are the piecing needle and matting needle. Piecing needle is the needle for mending piecing nets, which can be purchased at low price on Alibaba or AliExpress. I will mention where you can purchase in the description of the video, so you can find it easily. In the case of Yinyang pattern, in some sections, the thread needs to be woven under the previous woven thread, that is the lower part of the nail. To weave the thread under the nail like this, we need a piecing needle or matting needle. So let's start with the Yinyang pattern string art by preparing the piecing needles and matting needles. The first thing we need to do is mark the half of the 60 nails. Let's make 2 short threads. Then tie a thread on first nail and 31st nail and mark them. The first nail and the 31st nail are the starting point, expressed as 0.-5 and 0.5 in GeoGebra. I will start with the black thread first. Tie 2 knots at the starting point, 1 time and 2 time. First, I will make a line that rotates 12 degrees, skipping the 2 nails from A as A2. So we can go from nail number 1 to nail number 3. The reason to start from A2 is that if we start from A1, we need to weave the thread in this order: 1, 2, 3, 3, 5, 4. And we need to weave thread on third nail 2 times continuously. It can make beginner of string art confused. So we start with A2 skipping 2 nails and back to A1 skipping 1 nail. So the order is like this: 1, 3, 2, 5, 3, 7, 4, 9. Now we weave the thread from the first nail to third nail. Usually the thread is weaving the inner part of the circle, but this time we weave the thread outward so that the thread wraps around the second and third nails. Then return to the inside of the circle and weave the second nail. Then lace number 4 and number 5 outside and weave them. Then return to the nail number 3. At this time, returning line returns to the inside of the circle from 4 and 5 to nail number 3. Now, wrap the nail number 6 and number 7 outward and weave them together. Then return to the nail number 4. 1 nail for A1, 2 nails for A2. If you are unsure of the above order to weave thread on nails, please download the Heart Pattern PDF book and weave only half of the sequences listed for Heart Pattern. Download link is in the description. So let's continue to weave thread again. Weave 2 nails outward and weave 1 nail returning to the inside. A2 rotates by 12 degrees multiplied slider A, so the more we weave thread, the farther it is from A1, which rotates by 6 degrees multiplied slider A. First a difference of 6 degrees, then 12 degrees, 18 degrees, 24 degrees. So A2 moves away from A1 by 6 degrees. 1 nail for A1, 2 nails for A2. 1 nail for A1, 2 nails for A2. Let's repeat again and again. 1 nail for A1, 2 nails for A2. 1 nail for A1, 2 nails for A2. Let's repeat again and again. 1 nail for A1, 2 nails for A2. 1 nail for A1, 2 nails for A2. Let's repeat again and again. And when A1, that is nail skipping 1 nail, arrives at the 31st nail, we stop weaving and make a knot. What do you think is most emphasized part of this Yinyang pattern? Please look at this part. From starting point to half of the circle, we can recognize this pattern as a Yinyang because of densely woven of the curved part. So both the black thread and the gray thread we need to weave at the top of the nails. Before weaving thread, adjust the first thread woven so that they are located in the middle of the nail. It is convenient to use the piecing needle we prepared. Some gray thread will be woven at the top of the nails and some will woven at the bottom of nails. Adjust so that the thread you already woven are in the middle of the nails so that you can weave the next color thread easily. Weave the gray thread in the same way as the black thread. However, let's rotate the wood panel by 180 degrees so that we can weave in the same direction as when weaved the black thread earlier. Let's thread from first nail to the third nail, same as before. Weave the thread outward so that the thread wraps around the second and third nails. Then return to the inside of the circle and weave the second nail. And wrap nails number 4 and number 5 outside and weave them. Then return to the nail number 3. Returning line returns to the inside of the circle and wrap the nails number 6 and 7 outward and weave them. Then return to the nail number 4. Now wrap nails number 8 and number 9 outside and weave them. Then return to nails number 5. 1 for A1, wrapping the 2 nails behind for A2. 1 for A1, wrapping the 2 nails behind for A2. Let's repeat again and again. This time we weave until A2, which is wrapped around the 2 nails as skipping 2 nails meets the beginning of the black thread. Then weave it under the black thread so as not to cover curved trajectory created by the flex thread. Yes, the gray thread has arrived at the starting point of black thread. However, we don't finish it right here. We go back to the A1 once more and finish it there. This is because it is difficult to tie a knot after weaving the thread at the bottom of the nails. It is much easier to make knot at the top of the nail. Then let's make a tight knot 2 times. And now we are going to wind the red thread on the piecing needle. This is the inner part of a piecing needle to wind, and we will going to wind on it. After loosening the thread all the way to the bottom, turn the needle in the opposite side and wind the thread on the hook above the needle. After loosening the thread all the way to the bottom again, turn the needle in the opposite direction and wind the thread on the hook above the needle. And repeat it again and again. When we put the thread on the piecing needle, we only need to wind the thread easily to be loosened. Anyway, all the thread winded on piecing needle will be loosened, and we will weave the thread on the bottom of the black thread. It is same principle as using a matting needle, but if we use a matting needle, we can put only short thread on the matting needle. If the thread is too long, it will be tangled with each other. However, we can wind the long thread on piecing needles and loosen the thread as we need. So we don't have to worry about the long thread getting tangled. If we wind it too thickly, the piecing needles will become fat and cannot pass under the nail. So we will wind it up to this extent and cut the thread. Then we will have to start over the point where we finished it. What kind of thread should you tie the knot with? Yes, we needed to start from this point, finish it earlier by connecting the thread on piecing needle, which was cut after winding the thread. Then it can be loosened easily. Now at this point, tie the end of thread wound around the piecing needle twice and make 2 tight knots. And then we will move the next point, this time in the lower part of nail, under the black thread, and go down the nails like this, grab the 2 nails and come back inside of a circle. Of course, here too, we need to pass through the lower part of nail. Now the gray color is woven under the black thread, and we will weave thread on the top of one nail like this. Then let the thread that wrap the two nails at the bottom of the two nails like this. Hang on, I'm going to tie these two threads together and make a knot first. We need to tie these two threads together so that the finished thread and the restarted thread do not pass through the same trajectory. With the two nails at the bottom of nails, turn around and come back inside the circle. Pull the piecing needle straight out into the empty section where the thread is not woven and untie the thread. As the thread loosened, the thread became longer and it can be woven into the nail easily. Now weave one nail on the top of the nail. Move the piecing needle to the bottom of nail to lift the two nails again and weave them together. It is time-consuming work, but as we can see the black curves clearly. If we weave like this, we can make both curved part black and gray clearly. Now all the threads are loosened, so we can use matting needle now. As the thread is short, it is not getting tangled. Oh, I need to wrap two nails here, but only one nail is wrapped around. I'll untie it again and tie it in opposite direction. If the trajectory of the thread is not the same as previous trajectory when we weave it again, check the skid part of thread. Anyway, skid the thread once, same as previous thread woven, and weave it to the upper part of the nail. Now we have the same trajectory. Let's come back and wrap the two nails again, and I will tie it a knot. Even if the thread is already long, we need to stop weaving and make sure to tie the knot on the top of the nail, not at the bottom of nail. Now after looping the thread around the nail like this, make a ring. Tie the knot twice by passing the thread through. Now I'm going to wind the thread to piecing needle again. Let's hold the thread on the lower part by hand like this. Untie the thread all the way and wind the thread on the hook above the needle. After loosening the thread all the way to the bottom again, turn the needle into the opposite direction and wind the thread on the hook above the needle. Let's keep repeating. Now the thread has been wound enough, so let's cut the thread on piecing needle and weave the thread on the nails that we finished weaving again. It is woven on the top of the nails. So we weave gray color under the black, so thread will left two nails on the bottom of them. In the same way, weave one nail on the top and the two nails on the bottom again and again. One on the top, two on the bottom. One on the top, two on the bottom. So it's over. We can push the piecing needles into the empty side of Yinyang pattern. Now put the piecing needle back inside the circle. So now how do we tie this up? So let's tie the knot. Now the Yinyang pattern we are making is complete. In the first section, we are learning how to make 2 versus 1 Yinyang pattern in real string art. And let's create a 1.5 versus 1 pattern right away. In the case of 2 versus 1 pattern, A1 rotates skipping 1 nail each and A2 rotates skipping 2 nails each. So we call skipping 2 versus skipping 1 2 versus 1 pattern. How about 1.5 versus 1 pattern? Actually, we cannot skip 1.5 nails, so how can we express skipping 1.5 nails in real string art? To weave a 1.5 versus 1 pattern, we need to skip the nail on the A2 side by skipping 1 nail and skipping 2 nails alternatively and continuously. Then the average value of 1 and 2 is 1.5, which is the same shape as result of putting the rotation angle of A2 as 6 multiplied 1.5 A in GeoGebra simulation. And we need to think about the slider A, which means how many times we weave on the nails. For 2 versus 1 patterns that we weaved earlier, we need to weave 30 times only. Because A1 and A2 will be located at both sides of the circle after 30 times weaving, let's sum up this rule. 2 versus 1 pattern. A1 starts at first nail and moves 1 nail, so when we weave 30 times, A1 will be at the 31st nail. A2 starts at the first nail, moves 2 nails, so when we weave 30 times, it moves 60. A2 will be at the first nail. It continues to move away from A1 by 68 degrees and only needs to be woven 30 times. And the line connected A1 and A2 after weaving, it will be the diameter. It means A1 and A2 will be located on opposite side of the circle. 1.5 versus 1 pattern. A1 starts at the first nail and moves one nail. So when we weave 60 times, A1 will be at the first nail. A2 starting at the first nail and moves 1.5 nails alternatively 1 and 2 nails. So when we weave 60 times, A2 will move to 60 multiplied 1.5 90 times and be at the 31st nail. In the 1.5 versus 1 pattern, the distance between A2 and A1 is 6A only when A2 crosses the 2 nails. So in 30 times when A2 skips 1 nail, A1, A2 rotates by same angle and will not make A2 going far from A1. Then we need to weave the thread total 60 times including above 30 times when A2 skips 1 nail only same as A1. In other words, the last 2 points of Yinyang pattern are the diameter of circle, and this pattern is created smoothly when the thread connects two ending points and are located on the opposite side of the circle. Thus, we do not use piecing needles and matting needles for the 1.5 versus 1 pattern because we will weave the thread 60 times, so there are 2 threads stacked on nail. So it is necessary to weave on the top of the nail or between 2 black threads or at the bottom of nails. So it will be so complicated work. In fact, it deserves 4 large string artworks. Yes, I'm willing to do this kind of effort. But for learning with this simple string art, it would be better to cover it with a little technique. I will let you know. So let's get started. First, in the same way as the 2 versus 1 pattern, I will mark which points correspond to half of the circle, marking first and 31st nails with short thread. Tie a thread at the first nail, the point expressed as 0, -5 in GeoGebra, and tie the thread at 31st nail, the point expressed as 0.5 in GeoGebra. Let's tie the knot twice securely. Now let's start with the black thread. I'm going to the left, second and third on the back of the first nail and come back to the second nail. This time wrapping only one nail, fourth nail, and go back to the third nail. And this time wrap around the 2 nails, nail number 5 and nail number 6, and weave them in turns with to the 4th nail. A1, 1, A2, 2, and A1, 1, A2, 1. Repeat this pattern over and over. 1 and 1, 1 and 2. I have finally arrived at the point where we started, so black threads are woven safely. And let's compare it with 2 versus 1 pattern. It would be better to rotate 2 like this because the starting points will located in the bottom side of the circle. Similarly, we can see 1.5 versus 1 pattern is denser than 2 versus 1 pattern. Of course, we weave 60 times for this and 30 times for that, so it is a natural result. And the curves of 1.5 versus 1 is gentler than that of 2 versus 1. So we are not going to use piecing needle to weave the thread under the black thread. Instead, I will give you some tricks. I will let you know after weaving this gray first. Tie a knot the starting point 2 times. And weave thread 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. Well, it's finally over. Now I'm going to tie a knot and cut remaining thread. So let's remind 2 things. First, the method weaving the thread under the previous woven thread using piecing needle. We look around in 2 versus 1 pattern. Second, how to adjust the rotation angle and the pattern by adjusting the number of skipping nails. We look around this rule in 1.5 versus 1 pattern. So I hope that you will remember these two well and use them usefully when making actual string artwork. Thank you to everyone to watch it. I will come back with tornado pattern next time. Thank you. Bye bye.